Okay.
Okay, go right ahead with your presentation.
Would it be beneficial to sort of give a brief background of what we covered last time, or is everybody kind of up to speed on?
Give us your version.
Okay. Basically, this is a project that was built in 2007 at a time when there was very favorable market conditions for this type of project. It was underwritten in such a way where the projected rents would provide the investor with a return on his investment that made the risk worthwhile. However, with the collapse of the real estate market, it really had a devastating impact on the project. And as was indicated on the handouts that were presented last month, the property, although it looks pretty in the pictures, it's severely distressed. And after the debt service is paid, it's been a negative cash flow position since inception. And the NOI is nowhere near what had been anticipated at the time that it was built. And the project is managed by one property manager. There's one insurance policy on the property. There's operating expenses are under one contract. For example, the landscaper does all the units. So it's managed and operated in such a way that a large apartment complex would be managed and operated. The original loan, when it was appraised as one 55-unit apartment complex. And in response to the information handed out by the assessor's office, the assessment appeals manual talks about an appraisal unit. And in talking about an appraisal unit, it talks about, I have it here in front of me somewhere. It defines an appraisal unit as multiple parcels that would likely be bought and sold in the market as a group and can be appraised as a single appraisal unit. The definition of a parcel of land is an area of land in one ownership and one general use. And I think this property fits both of those qualifications. In regards to this loan restriction that we discussed earlier, we're not hanging our hat on that position. That's just one aspect of the bigger picture. And we believe that the proper approach to valuing a project like this would be an income capitalization approach. And that was part of the presentation last month, was looking at the NOI of the project and capitalizing that income and what would a reasonably informed buyer in the marketplace expect as a return for his investment. And the values based on that income capitalization approach are much, much less than what's been proposed by the county. So we just believe there needs to be more weight given to that approach and not a gross rent multiplier approach, which is when you're capitalizing income, it needs to be very careful and very detailed. In a gross rent multiplier, you're not looking at expenses. Oftentimes vacancy isn't factored in. And we've presented actual hard numbers, actual income, actual expenses that present a value that's much less than what's been proposed by the county.
I am, can I ask a?
Yes, go right ahead.
I'm looking at cash flow December 2008, and that shows income, expenses, and operating expenses, administrative expenses, and a debt service. Let's say before debt service, expenses on a year-to-date basis. On this report, I'm seeing NOI before owner expenses for the calendar year of $69,366. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. What kind of a capitalization rate are you suggesting?
Well, what I laid out last time was three different cap rate scenarios in what I would consider, in my opinion, to be pretty aggressive.
What cap rate would you use?
What I laid out was 6.5 cap, 7 cap, and a 7.5 cap. My opinion is probably it would be in the 7.5 cap range.
Okay, on a 7.5 cap on 69,000 in value, what kind of a value do you put on this?
That's $925,000.
925. And what is the assessor valuing it at?
That's on the summary page, on the very first page.
Yes. Oh,
It has it there, just to help you.
okay, let
On
me
the
back.
very front of his, right here.
Yeah, this
Has
one,
that for you.
yeah. I'm sorry, you did have it right there.
I'm curious what then the assessor's value is to the comparable number there in 2008. What do they believe it? What is their value
The value that's
compared
on
to
the,
your 925?
and I'm not proposing a value of 925 because this year there was some lease up and there was some, I think about halfway through the year, the project was somewhat stabilized and it's been kind of performing at that same level since then. Our proposal for the assessed value is $4,950,000, and I think the value on the rolls is $5,843,000.
4
plus or minus.
million,
Our opinion is $4,950,000,
950.
and then the value that's on the roll, I believe, is $5,843,000.
And that's assuming you're talking about a 7.5 cap
Well, no, I mean, if we were to
on
take
stabilized income?
if we were to take a 7.5 cap on stabilized income, it'd probably be in the $3 to $3.3 million range, which is reflected on those.
So you're actually going higher than that?
Yes, we're going higher than that because we believe that that would set the lower bracket of the value range. I mean, granted, they are newer units, so there's a replacement cost that should be looked at when you're doing the appraisal. But when you look at the income approach, the lower value end is so much lower that there has to be. I mean, we're coming up above what we think an income approach would lead an investor to invest in the property.
So you guys are basically $1 million apart, essentially, if I'm writing the numbers down right.
Yeah, it's
Rough and dirty.
yeah,
Maybe $1 million, well, yeah,
maybe
1,300,000.
900 plus or minus.
So if you're $1 million apart and you have 56 units,
55.
you're looking at how much?
Ours is 90,000 a unit. That's what $4,950,000 equates to. I don't know off the top of my head what $5,843,000 equates to.
Okay, I understand.
So,
On one of these here, I have, and I'm not sure where it came from, but it says taxable value on the 809 roll was $5,843,154. Assessor's opinion of value is $6,325,000, or $115,000 per unit. And the applicant's opinion was $4,125,075 per unit. This, I guess, was one of the, you guys, who presented that?
Yours.
Yours?
The applicant's opinion was taken Asian, which, that's usually
But
start with.
said your opinion of the value was $6 million, but that wasn't what was on the roll, though, huh?
Correct. Yeah,
5 million or something was on the roll.
basically recommend no change.
No change?
No change, yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I got confused. Change would be 5,843,000?
That's correct.
Okay. You could have gone higher under the 6.3, but that's not the value that you were defending in November and today.
No, we're
You're
basically,
willing to go with the 5.8. And I apologize because I was not present in November. Value on the roll is the 5.8 million. And your opinion of value, you could defend a higher value, but you're okay with the 5.8. Okay, thank you.
and just to help me out too, I'm gathering we don't have a definitive code or guideline that says you must assess this either as fourplexes or as a 55-unit project. Is that true?
Well, as I understand it, the assessor is saying we have to appraise this on the 56 units as, no, fourplexes as fourplexes, because that's the way title is held.
Mr. Zunin, that, it's actually a little vague. We are claiming that because that is the unit most commonly traded in the market, not because the legal code requires so. Originally talked with Mr. File about that and that approach, and he stated, you know, the appraisal unit gave us a small definition of that, but the appraisal unit, while it describes commonly held ownership, we're looking at the highest and best use. We're required to, by law, to look at the highest and best use for these parcels. And as they currently stand in their current configuration, we perceive that to be as fourplexes.
Fourplexes.
And that's further led on to by the fact that even the appellant's development of the property in 2005, prior to starting construction on the individual units, they went through and recorded easement agreements for the joined driveways on the parcels that are paired with one another. And that would seem to indicate in the future that they had an inclination to want to then sell them off separately. So even their development on it tends to lend towards our theory that these are, their highest and best use would be as fourplexes and triplexes.
Yeah.
Typically on a 55 units, that's gonna be on one assessor's parcel number, maybe two, depending on whatever, but they're going to be on one, generally one parcel, maybe two parcels.
But this is a separate APNs.
Separate parcels,
Right, I understand.
leave a duplex on each one.
The
No,
pair of duplexes on
It's a it's a pair of duplexes.
Correct. If you'll refer to the back page on the packet we originally handed out, I believe there is an
Oh, so they're not fourplexes and a triplex. They're
They are, that's right, I misspoke. They are fourplex,
fourplexes and one triplex.
correct.
Okay, all right.
The back page of the presentation has an aerial photograph of
Yeah.
the subject properties. You can see there the configuration. If you look at the northern portion in the far left corner of the picture, the two units that are paired there with both the brown and gray roof, those are on one legal parcel. So there's a set of duplexes on that parcel.
Okay.
But actually, they're technically not fourplexes, they're technically duplexes.
Two
There's
duplexes.
Two duplexes per parcel.
Except for the one
Yeah,
that's a
but-
Now,
triplex.
in
Just to
the
be clear, wait a
assessor's
minute, just to be
opinion,
clear, that can't be
that can't be
separated.
sold separately. They're just saying it's built that way.
It
The
just
current-
happens to be two buildings.
Right, two buildings on one
Current
parcel.
zoning would actually allow them to eventually in the future separate the duplexes and sell them off individually as duplexes. In their current
But-
configuration, though, we're only appraising them as fourplexes and triplexes.
But you would
But
have
they-
to put an easement across
Yeah.
for ingress and egress off both sides because they share a driveway.
Correct. If you look at the configuration on the aerial, you could with each duplex, with the easement agreements they put into place for each lot, go ahead and have
Now, the comps that you've prepared, are they based upon fourplexes or duplexes?
fourplexes. We have included, if you'll notice, if you look at refer to your packet,
That's what I remember.
included 3 sales, one from each of the major communities in the county, one from Visalia, Tulare, and Porterville. We found units that were of equivalent age and potentially suffered from some of the same issues that the subject properties did. And then when we went to the range of value, we decided to place our opinion at the lower end of the range of value in order to give the appellant the potentially the best take in this.
Okay.
Anything else from the applicant?
So I still want to be clear here, there is no definitive code that says
What,
this must be assessed as individual fourplexes versus a single 55-unit project.
what Mr. Miller has described, I think, I'm sorry, it might have been the other guy. What the statute says is that the appraisal unit is what matters. And it's essentially, well, what do people normally buy and sell in the marketplace? Do you normally buy, is this type of real property usually only sold as a one unit? or is it normally bought and sold in parcels? So even if it was originally developed as one development, it's like a housing development would sell as vacant land in 20-acre parcels, but then as it's developed and the individual homes are built, it's sold in individual homes. So at some point, it starts getting valued as that many individual homes. How that works in the duplex world, the assessor is telling us that they normally sell it by the parcel, and in this case, they have 2 duplexes on each of those parcels, except for one, so they're valuing it as a piece of property that you could sell for two duplexes on. Am I describing that accurately? Because that's the way people normally buy and sell duplexes they sell it by the parcel. So if there's 2 duplexes on it, that would be the unit you'd normally buy in the market.
That's presuming the city of Tulare would grant a parcel split with a mutual easement between the two
No, what we've done is valuing,
at fourplexes. Right. There are fourplexes.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, technically, they're 2 buildings, so they're 2 duplexes
But they're
per
really
parcel.
valued as fourplex.
Right, and that's what they've done, so
Okay.
that's a semantic
and there's
difference.
1 APN.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you've got them valued as what's on each APN.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, splitting that APN is another
That's
deal
speculative.
altogether.
Right. Yeah.
Of course, the applicant is saying that they should be valued all as one unit.
Let me ask one other question to the assessor, if it's okay, because I think we were focusing last time as to whether this should be valued as a whole 56 units versus fourplexes. So we kind of focused on that. Now, if we are presuming that they are appraised as fourplexes, the other 2 comps, or the other 2 comps other than the subject property, the one in Visalia, where are those comps?
It's located on Sally Lane, which is just off of Mooney, north of Caldwell,
Wait a minute, Sally Lane,
which is, if you go north on Mooney from Caldwell,
Caldwell North, there's Sally Lane that intersects, I believe, Beach Street. Are you talking about that far north or south of that?
behind, Mr.
You're
Miller
talking
indicated it's
about-
behind Pep Boys.
Behind Pep Boys. How old are those units?
I believe the units were built in 2007.
2007.
I'm sorry, 2005.
And where are the units in Porterville?
The units in Porterville are located on North Pearson, and those were built,
What quadrant of town?
I believe that was the northeast one, if I remember.
Northeast. And those were also 7 years old.
Correct. No, those were built in 1973.
Oh, 73. They are older units.
Correct. But because they had improvements that were very similar to the subject properties, we chose to include those and make a small age adjustment on them. But Mr. Zuni, the one comparable sale you didn't mention was the Tulare comparable sale, which was of units that are of the same era as the appellants.
Where's the units in Tulare that are comped?
Street,
Huh?
Phoenix,
Where on Las Piñas? North or south of Cross Street?
if my memory serves me well, I want to say it was south of Cross Street.
South of Tulare? It would be in the southeast quadrant of Tulare?
Records say it's across, the exhibit they presented last month says it's on a busy street that's across from K-O-H-N Elementary School. I don't know if that's Cone or Con.
That's towards the southerly part.
That's fairly near Cross, I think.
Cross Street, so
it's
it's
fairly near.
north of Tulare.
No.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
north of Tulare Street, I believe, yeah.
Those units were built in 1994.
94. Okay.
So,
Could I ask, is there been any sales activity on these units? Have you tried to sell them? Have you listed them? Have you sold any of them?
No.
You haven't put any of these up for sale.
Nope.
One of the, when we were convened last time, I mentioned that I am involved in some single-family lots on close to Cross Street and West. Right on the corner of Cross Eaton West are some apartment units. Are you familiar with those units?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay. They're adding on to them currently. A number of units in the back of there. Okay.
Anything else?
I might just want to add, kind of in general, that apartments, you know, we had a lot of them in 2008, appeals on these. And the majority of them, we found, got little or no reduction for the 2008 lien date. But in the years after that, 2009 lien date, 2010, they all saw substantial reductions. And I believe we're looking at reductions for lien date 2009 and lien date 2010 on this property. And
This particular property is for what, 2008?
8. And
So 2009, 2010 hasn't been addressed at this point. Well, I mean, as far as
Not
we're
in this
concerned.
hearing.
Yeah,
right, okay.
okay. All right.
Yeah, I think that's been true of the cases that your board has heard before, that the drop in the rental market lagged the drop in the residential market.
Anything else from the applicant?
Just to kind of reiterate that if you look at the income on this project and you have an educated investor, an educated buyer, the value they place on it, in my opinion, again, is going to be nowhere near what the assessed value is as of that date. So I would just, to me, I kind of tend to go back to the income, and that is inclusive of all the expenses and all the actual issues and challenges that relate to this specific project. Yeah, so then that's
And so for this particular year, is $4,950,000.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay, we'll close the hearing. We'll get you a decision, maybe 90 days, 60
90 days.
days. or
Good
90,
idea.
Yeah, with the way their things are.
Thank you.
Thank you. Third. Now, let's see, we have to go back and kind of start over. Let's see. Item number 5. Did the assessor know anything about Mr. Taylor? Is he,
Haven't heard anything from him.
haven't heard anything from him. So we just need a motion to deny item 5 for non-appearance.
Regarding agenda number 5, Paul Taylor, application number 2009-0307, I move that we deny for non-appearance.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Do we need a motion to accept the withdrawal on 6? Okay, so we need a motion then to accept the withdrawal for,
Regarding agenda number item 6, I move that we accept item number 6 as a withdrawal.
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Item 8's done. We need a motion to accept the revised withdrawal calendar.
Regarding the revised withdrawal calendar, I had met Mr. Oates, item numbers 9 and 10 as a withdrawal 35 years ago. I'd like to make that designation. Than that, I move that we accept the withdrawal calendar on the agenda.
The assessor have an objection to
No
Chair
objection.
Zuni in voting on that matter.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so moved. I think that gets us through the agenda.
We didn't actually do the board member and staff comments part.
Does the assessor staff have any comments or like to make it, continue this, close of this year?
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to
Another
you.
good year with you.
I do have one brief comment. One of the things that the clerk and I have been doing is collecting changes that we would like to make to the Assessment Appeals Board rules. And we will be collecting those to the board at our special meeting in, is it April? March and April? When do we take off? March and April?
Yeah.
March and April?
April is the workshop.
April and May. Okay, so April is our aiming point for really having a finished product to present to you to discuss and provide guidance to the clerk. So if there are any items that board members or the assessor have noticed that, gee, this is an awkward procedural thing, maybe we need to do something to give the clerk some guidance or the board members some guidance in this area, let one of us know, and we'll throw that into the mix for the board to consider in April.
Come next year, we'll have a new assessor, new assistant assessor. I went to Greg Hardcastle's get-out-of-town party, and I missed you, John. There was some of the other guys there that...
Well, it's a little bit of a drive down here, and, you know, I hate to say it, but one of the things I've stopped doing, I'm not drinking anymore, so it didn't make a whole lot of sense not having anything to drink.
Yes, the wine did flow.
So you're pretty pure these days, I see.
I don't know if we'd say that.
We appreciate all your help that you've given the board this year. Hopefully, it'll slow down next year, possibly, some.
Oh,
I said, we got all did we get all the 2008s out
Never
of the
slows
way?
down.
the majority of the 2008s are completed. We've got a handful remaining that were filed later in the year that we're going to be taking on as they come up. Hopefully, we'll get them done well before that. We're starting in on the 2009s. There was about over 1,600 of those. We've resolved a number of them, but there's still quite a few more. And in reviewing a lot of these, I've seen a lot of commercial properties, and those do take a lot more time.
Right.
I did indicate announced it to all my staff and everything that I'm going to be retiring.
Wow,
Time was right.
gosh. So again, we're dumped. Yeah. Between you and Andy, and so now we're dumped.
There'll be some,
Are we the cause of that?
there's many causes. You're one. No, it was time. I've been there over
do wanna
38
sing out,
years,
Mr.
and I
Young, huh?
figure that's. My wife is retiring the same day, and she said she's gonna go home and start cleaning my stuff up and get rid of it. Let her do that. Retire the same day.
I see.
You'll protect your,
Did you tell me that date was February 28th?
February 25th, like the
3
Friday
days
before.
before the next year, the last hearing.
avoid our, he's not gonna come in on the 28th to
Sound like
last
it.
a swan song.
Sounds like his wife's got him busy, starting on the 26th.
Yeah.
I'm sure the 25th is the end of the pay period.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah.
I've got a step next door, so I'm going to wish everyone a happy holiday.
Thank you.
Same to you.
See you next year.
Merry Christmas.
Yep.
Happy New Year.
That's my preference.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Okay.
Thanks to the assessor staff then for the help you gave us
Who's gonna
this
take your
year.
place, Greg?
Don't know.
Oh, okay.
And I need to definitely be speaking to the new assessor on that and trying to get something going as soon as possible.
I'd hate for you to have to come back in.
Are you gonna find a replacement for Roller?
You're gonna have to shortly after that.
I see.
You can't find anything to replace
We
Roland.
can't replace them.
We're irreplaceable, we know, but
Yes, yes.
Hire someone with that position title we can do.
I'll probably be leaving sometime between March and August.
Stick around long enough to get this paint deal settled.
You know, in the service we had kind of what they call short-termers attitude?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I called him institutionalized.
All
Okay,
right, thank
guys,
you,
take
gentlemen.
care.
Once you're ready to retire, you get institutionalized.
Thank
Same
you.
to you.
Regarding,
Are we still in,
We're-
we're still.
We're gonna close
not
the
officially closed.
Assessment Appeals Board for, December the 13th, 2010. We'll go into,
Oh, I forgot, we did have one more announcement. We have converted from the recording system with CDs, is that what the old one was? CDs?
Well, before we were using Audacity. Last hearing on Audacity just did not come out clear at all, and the text couldn't figure out why. We have a CD recorder that I am using now because what my ultimate goal is to be on Granicus completely and do all the recording because I can timestamp and go back and listen. Could make that public just off the internet if we wanted to. For some reason, my meeting time is only set for an hour, so it keeps stopping and restarting. I'm not sure how consistent that's gonna be. So right now I'm doing both. I'm doing CD.
Basically, what we're doing is we're transitioning to recording your board's meetings on the same system that the Board of Supervisors meetings are recorded on. And so it just goes right onto the hard drive. You don't have to keep putting in CDs each time, every so often. And so we haven't had to ask your board this morning to stop. I don't know if you've.
I did make a change because I'm not secure now that I'm getting.
Yeah, it's supposed to default at 4 hours, but apparently it's gotten
Defaulting at
mixed
1
up and
hour.
is defaulting at 1 hour. But anyway, so just to let you know, we're in the process of doing that transition.
right?
Okay, so now were we still on?
Have I,
Okay, so now we're enclosed,
Mike's off.
we're gonna take a quick break for
and we'll take